So I just wanted to run through the answers with you over the skeletal system handout um, to make sure that you have an idea what we're going to be studying for. We will not have a test over the skeletal system until next week, probably next Tuesday or so. For today, Wednesday, I gave you another piece of information about the skeletal system off of CK12 with another study guide. After this, we're going to do, I'm going to have you do a project over a skeletal disease, and you'll have to answer some questions about that or answer them in a PowerPoint presentation and submit that. Then we'll do a review over the skeletal system probably on Monday, and we'll take a test over the skeletal system on Tuesday of next week. All right. So just to make sure you have the correct answers to be studying, if you want to prepare for the test, 3 things that you need to know about the skeletal system is that it helps with movement, supports the body, protects the internal organs of the body, and you need to know that there's 206 bones in the human body. How does the skeletal system and muscular system help the body maintain homeostasis? It provides movement away from danger, provides movement toward food. Movement also maintains the body temperature. So the underlying theme through this whole class, I'll be referring back to the homeostasis of the human body, the body functions that try to keep the body healthy and safe. And you notice there's a star there, hint, hint, that will be something that might be on the test. This one here also starred skeletal and muscular systems enable movement and provide support for tissues and organs. Bones and muscles must work together to make movement possible. The ability to move increases the chance of survival by allowing a person to gather food, seek shelter, and escape from danger. The skeleton provides an anchor for the muscles that move the body. Once again, 206 bones in an adult human. 2 areas of the skeleton. Axial skeleton supports the axis of the body, skull, vertebral column, and rib cage. Then the appendicular skeleton are the bones of the arms and also the legs. The axial skeleton is basically made of the skull, vertebral column, rib cage. The appendicular skeleton is everything except this. So it's going to be the shoulders and arms, the pelvic girdle, and the extremities. So appendicular skeleton, appendages, arms, legs, and the hip area there also. Okay. Let's see. So the inside of a bone looks similar to a sponge. Most of you have seen some type of bone opened up, and they're talking about the ends of the bone. You can see that like in chicken bones, like the leg bones and stuff, when they break open, they look they're not solid all the way through. They're kind of spongy. And what passes through the tubes and spaces inside the bones are blood vessels and nerves. Bone is surrounded by a tough layer of connective tissue called the periosteum. The network of tubes that contain blood vessels and nerves are called the Haversian canals. And bone marrow is a soft tissue found in the cavities of bones. Starred. 2 types of bone marrow, yellow and red. The yellow marrow is made up of fat cells, And then the red marrow produces red blood cells, some kinds of white blood cells, cell fragments, as well as platelets. So these are going to be test questions. The cartilage cells are scattered in a network of protein fibers called collagen and flexible elastin. Cartilage does not contain the blood vessels, and cartilage cells must get nutrients from tiny blood vessels and surrounding tissues. Cartilage helps to attach bone to bone or certain muscles to bone. And also cartilage is found like at the tip of your nose, and it's also between your ribs and your sternum. It helps to attach there. It's the flexible portion. Cartilage is dense and fibrous. It can support weight even though it's extremely flexible. As children mature, cartilage is replaced by bone in a process called ossification. And bone cells are called osteoblasts, and they create bone. Force must be placed on bone for ossification to occur. Force stimulates the osteoblasts to secrete minerals that replace cartilage. So when we have infants and they're going into a toddler stage, we try to get them to walk and stand upright. We're always kind of like trying to hold them with their hands and trying to help them balance. And what we're doing, even though we may not realize it, is we're forcing the children to stand up, to put pressure on the bones, and that pressure helps to force minerals into the bone cells to replace the cartilage. And so it's really important when they say that children need to be outside playing or up exercising. It's really helping their skeletal system to increase the structure of their skeletal system. So why do you think it's important for children to be active? It places pressure on the tissue to form bone. Bone formation occurs in babies and children. When one stops growing, the growth plates are filled in with bone. Growth plates, some of you that have had children or nieces or nephews, growth plates is where there's still the length of the bone is increasing. And a lot of times when kids break their arms and legs, parents are always worried about it being near those growth plates. And then some people who want their kids to be athletes and they worry about their development, how tall they're going to be, they'll actually have people x-ray the kids' growth plates to see if they're starting to fill in with bone or if they're still going to grow some more. People get a little crazy when it comes to sports sometimes. So when one stops growing, the growth plates tend to be filled in with bone. And where do adults retain cartilage? I've mentioned this before: nose, ears, ribs that are attached to the sternum. So cartilage is part of the skeletal system, and it's the flexible portion. Bone formation can occur when a bone's broken. Bones can heal. There's certain cells within the skeletal system called osteoclasts. They remove the damaged bone, and then osteoblasts are bone cells that produce new bone tissue. And then when we talk about the skeletal system, there are joints which connect certain bones together, allow for movement. There's several different types of joints, and the joints are classified based upon the type of movement that the joints allow. Immovable joints, they're found in the skull where the bones meet. They're like the suture lines that you'll see in skulls. And that's where the skull bones have closed up. Most people who've been around tiny babies, they're called soft spots, but the more scientific name is the fontanelles. And the bones of the skull have not completely solidified because that allows for movement through the birth canal. And so that's when we tell people to be really careful with the backs of, with the baby's heads and so forth, because the bones haven't completely ossified in the skull. But when they do, they're called immovable joints. Slightly movable joints, joints between the two bones of the lower leg. And then you also have more movable types joints, ball and socket. Those are found in the shoulder and hips. Hinge joints. Think about your knee. Really, the only movement that your knee has is like a back and forth movement, like a hinge. Pivot joints, elbow, and then the saddle joints are in between the bones of your hands. So that's a real brief overview of the skeletal system from the PowerPoint. The assignment I'm also pushed out for today is some reading off of CK12 with a study guide to go with that. And like I said, we'll do one research project over a skeletal disease. We'll do a review sheet on Monday, and we'll test on next Tuesday over the skeletal system.